This Reddit article is from 6 months ago, titled My Business Collapsed. I'm living on $100 a week and I'm desperate. Not long ago, I ran a software agency. Things were good, like really good. In 2024, we were thriving. Big contracts, tons of work, 25 employees, good vibes, everything pointed up. Then it all fell apart. It started last November when we lost one of our biggest contracts. We were providing a dedicated team to a German company, and the company suddenly decided to handle it internally. I negotiated, I dropped prices. I did everything short of flying over there and washing their dishes. It didn't matter. We lost the contract with the German company. I thought I could recover. Next, I made a really dumb call, though it was my comeback moment. We have a staffing augmentation department, and a big ferry company from the Netherlands asked us for 6 engineers. I thought to myself, perfect, this will save us. I blew $8,000 sourcing 50 top tier candidates. They kept rejecting every single candidate after some week-long test. I figured maybe my process was bad, so I hired a fractional tech lead to pre screen the candidates before sending them. Another $2,000. Guess what? Still all rejected. Not a single hire. $10,000 I lost. Then in March, the building of our biggest client literally burned down. No joke. They stopped paying us immediately, and we were already running on fumes. The only other project we had was pro bono. So basically, I was bleeding money every month with no way to stop it. Now it's July. The company is basically dead. I'm sitting here with no employees left, living on $100 a week, applying to freelance gigs, Upwork every day. But since I never used it before, I have no work history and no one even replies. So here I am throwing myself at the mercy of the internet. I'm a senior web app developer and a mid-level mobile app developer. I also work in designs. I'm not picky. I'll work under market rate. I just need something to get me through this mess and keep the lights on. If you have a project, even a small one, or know someone who needs help, let me know. All right. First off, happy Tuesday morning. We're probably going to cover about 3 stories here because I have to get to the gym. Let me tell you something. After having been married to someone who owned a business, okay, so self-employed, worked out of the home, and all of that stuff. I won't say what industry, not important, but I can tell you this: my experience with a lot of people who are self-employed is they are when they get into a point of desperation where the business is bleeding money. A lot of self-employed people will put out an all call like this, and this is what got my attention. Okay, I will work under market rate. Here is the problem with trying to save a business under most circumstances. Okay, working under market rate means you are not even going to make a dollar, chances are, especially if you are totally reliant on your own income. In other words, you don't have a spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend backing you up as you're working under market rate, but you have another person, helping support the household and the bills, which for those who are unfamiliar with this channel, if you're new, welcome. Okay. Glad you're here and thanks for joining us. My experience, however, is for me, I don't wish to partner, date, okay, again, with someone who is really fully self employed. In other words, it's not W 2 and a side hobby like I have here with this channel and my teaching job, W 2 and side hobby, but it's someone who is fully self employed and they are that means that there's no W-2 job and they are totally reliant on the business to be successful or there is no income. And I've seen it more than once in my own, relationship, or should I say relationships. Okay, I've been more than one because I am in my 50s, okay? And it's something that I think a lot of self-employed people do is it's that desperation to hold on to, and understandably their project, their pet, baby project going on. But the logic starts to slip when the business starts to slip financially to the point that it becomes, I'll work for free. I'll work under market rate. Okay. But who pays the price for that? Either you as the business owner pay the price and you're in this guy's what is it, situation. He doesn't say if he's married or not, okay? But married or not, the partner that you're with is going to pay the price because now they've got to bring in the extra money, you see, because they're now supporting your hobby. When a business fails to be successful financially, it is a hobby. At least that's how it's defined by the IRS. So I understand him going, hey, I have all this experience. I used to, work with, what is it, overseas international companies, and all of that fell through. And now I'll just work for anybody for free. Working for free doesn't solve the financial problem. In fact, I think it devalues you even more. It devalues your personal self esteem. And it possibly, I'm going to bet more often than not, it will devalue you in your industry because people look at you and like, oh my God, and let's face it, people talk. Okay. When it comes to businesses, people talk, right? We like to think that Coca-Cola and Pepsi don't know what the other person is doing. Are you kidding me? They got spies and everybody knows what's going on. So people start looking at you in your industry and they're like, hey, you're cheap. You don't want to be known as cheap in your industry. You want to be known as, reliable, fair price, competitive. To me, again, this is my couple of relationships I've had with people who are self-employed. You don't want to be known as the, oh my God, I'm so desperate, I'll work for anything person, because then that's how you wind up getting used. And then you wind up using the person that you live with because now your business is turned into a hobby. See? And like for me on this channel, it is no longer a hobby. It's actually a business. And the IRS will be very happy with that. But if I were with somebody in a relationship, okay, they would look at me and they would say, okay, well, how much do we rely on your YouTube business, for us to live, to survive? None. The whole YouTube channel could collapse tomorrow. It's not going to, but the whole channel could collapse. It would change nothing in my retirement and my savings and what I, plan to do. It would change nothing because I don't rely on this as my main bread and butter. And I'm not in a relationship saying, yeah, my entire channel is, my entire income is based on my YouTube channel. Now, of course, there are creators that can base it on their YouTube channel. They are that big. Okay. And if it's not that big, they simply, a lot of them, you guys have other wheels and deals that they're doing. It's not just the YouTube channel. Oh, and I'll give you a little hint, speaking of self-employed, okay? A lot of YouTube creators, when you see them collaborating and stuff, a lot of people don't know this, but one has oftentimes paid the other to be on their channel. Just letting you know that, okay? There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in YouTube that make people, think that, oh my God, these creators are just friends. No, they ain't friends. I mean, sometimes they are, but if you get to be big enough and stuff, yeah, if you want to go on someone else's channel, you can collaborate and, for, $500, you can be a guest on my show. Yes, this really does happen. Not everything is as it appears sometimes. All right. But I would never put my YouTube channel as my bread and butter. That's just a silly thing to do. So the desperation is real and I understand it, but I think dropping your value and saying that I'll work for free, I'll work for anything. And here's the other thing. He stuck this on the internet. I think this is just my opinion, okay? I think it's better to go one-on-one with private business. In other words, you use your networking skills to try to find something, even if you have to work under market rate, because then your business isn't all out there on the internet because you don't want to lower the value of your company to your competitors or to even to people who might, customers who want to use you. It's like, oh my God, that guy's so desperate, he'll work for anything. And, without naming names, I was in a relationship with someone who literally worked half the business for free. It doesn't work. I knew it wasn't going to work. Okay. You cannot work part of the business for free and then think you're going to make it up in the referrals and, deals that you might get as a result of working for free. That is a very, very bad marketing strategy, advertising strategy. There is a difference between marketing and advertising. It's probably more of a marketing strategy. Okay. It's really bad. And if you don't believe me, you remember that company called Groupon? And Groupon used to be everywhere. It was like, everybody's like, ooh, Groupon, 2 for 1, 2 for 1. Why is Groupon I don't think I've said Groupon, a matter of fact, in years. Why does no one talk about Groupon anymore? Because in the end, giving stuff out for free, giving stuff out for a really steep discount doesn't work for most companies, especially when you're paying for it. And here, what this dude paid $10,000 to try to find, what was it? He wanted 6 top engineers, and he spent $10,000 trying to find top candidates. This tells me he was playing out of his league. In other words, I'm not insulting, the business, okay? But he wasn't prepared, okay, in his the growth stage that he was at to be able to provide this. The Netherlands, I guess the company, they needed to go to a bigger company. He was trying, how do I put it? He was flexing where he was not ready yet to flex. I think that's a good way of putting it. And this is why he spent $10,000. There are companies that probably could have provided the Netherlands what they wanted on the first shot simply because they're bigger. And that is something else I do recognize with some people who are self-employed, not all. This is never, when it comes to self-employment, okay, it's not an all, none, never, okay thing. But there are some people who are self-employed. They are flexing in a way that they are not financially and growth wise ready to do yet. And I think that sinks a lot of businesses. And you see it sink big businesses as well. Okay. Too much growth, too fast. Why do you think some Starbucks are closing? Why do you think Macy's is closing? Now, granted, these are long entrenched companies, but they can make the same mistake thinking they all that, right? Make the same mistake and they're everywhere. I literally lived when I was in my 30s. Okay, true story. In my 20s, I lived in Kaiser, Oregon, which is right outside of Salem, Oregon. Okay, Salem being the capital of Oregon. I lived in Kaiser, Oregon. And when I was there at 26, they're talking 30 years ago, I kid you not, there was a McDonald's every half a mile. For a couple miles in Kaiser, okay, there was a McDonald's I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating, approximately every half a mile. I could have walked from one McDonald's to the next. And I am sure if I went there today, that probably doesn't exist because look what's happened to the McDonald's franchise. Okay. So even big companies can fall prey to, oh, we just think we're all that and we're expanding everywhere. And then they realize they're too big. This dude was not ready for this size of contract. And I believe that's why he lost. I'm not saying he has to shut down the business, but he may have to downsize greatly and just be, sometimes you just got to be the little fish in a big pond, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. All right, paying off boyfriend's debt. Why are people paying off their boyfriend's debt? This was from 1 year ago. Here we go. So I have a situation. I recently learned that my boyfriend has around $18,000 of debt. 6,000 of it is on a credit card and 12,000 on a personal loan at approximately 11% interest. He did not mention he had $7,000 in credit card debt when we started dating. Partly my fault for not asking. Side note, I will get back to that. And he has since accrued the rest while we were dating because he was paying for stuff for us, such as trips, dinners, basically him going into debt to win me over. He moved in with me. Okay. He moved in with me in a place I own 9 months ago and has obviously paid me rent, which was $700 more than he was paying before. I feel like part of this is on me, and I'm wondering if I should help pay off his debt, at least the credit card. I make double, if not more, each month than he does, though I have been a diligent saver for the past 6 years and also have zero debt. I pay my credit cards almost every day. I just paid off my car, have well over 6 digits in the stock market, and own my property. Oh, sweet Jesus. I would likely have a freak out if I ever owed $18,000 on something and I was fully responsible for it getting to that point. Though he lied the first time I asked what he owed on his credit card, stating it was half the amount. When I asked a week later, finally gave me the truth, assuming he was embarrassed, but also never told me how far gone it was until now after I asked. Hold on. I want I want to help. I am naturally a very charitable person, but I can't tell if I'm enabling him or actually helping. I am so serious about not having debt, and I'm not sure we match on how we look at finances. But I also feel like if I don't help, he'll never ask me to marry him because he won't have the money to do so. And I, age wise, don't have time for that because I want kids. And I just turned 30 and the clock is ticking. My thoughts were to not charge him rent, 1.5 thousand for a few months and help him get rid of the credit card and some. I apologize for rambling. Oh, you have to apologize on this channel for rambling, but I don't know what the right thing to do is. I love this guy, but this is not how I planned life to be before children and where things actually get expensive. Any help or advice? Ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to address here the ladies. Ladies, get a backbone, get a backbone, get a backbone. Okay. This redder needs to get that. Look, maybe it's my age, maybe it's my life experience. It's probably a combination of both. I don't understand why people have to write in to basically say, hey, my boyfriend's a numbnut when it comes to understanding money. He lied about how much debt he has. He can barely afford to pay anything. I guess I could go ahead, pay all the rent so he can pay off his debt. And I really, feel guilty because he says he was paying it for us. And maybe perhaps I benefited from that, and I really want to have kids and stuff. So if I pay all of his bills, maybe he'll marry me. Because if I don't pay his bills, he won't marry me. I don't understand, even at my lowest points of self esteem, why do people write into Reddit for this? Why do you need approval to go, hey, you know what? He is screwing you over. And if you marry this guy, guess what? If you ever divorce, you're going to be the one paying the alimony and the child support. Hey, I'm speaking the truth, am I not? Okay, she's going to be the one to pay all the bills, and if the relationship ends, she will be the one to pay alimony and child support. I guarantee it. She's the one who has the drive to make the money. She's the one who has the money. She comes in with all the assets. This is the type of guy that's licking his chops like a hungry lion in the wild on a fresh zebra kill, going, hey, I spot my victim. And you see, some dude like this, he can fake it. It's called, what is it called? Fake it till you make it, so to speak. He's got his eye on her to be his financial support. Now, I am not saying that the guy needs to make more than the woman. I am not saying that. But what I am saying is he sounds like a real immature, irresponsible, lazy sort of dude. And he's hooked himself up like a shark in the water. Okay. To a woman, and she says it herself. She says she is a charitable person. Well, charitable doesn't mean you have to be a sucker. Okay. Charitable does not mean sucker written across your shirt. And I will give charity to any man that gives a hint that he would like to marry me. Oh, and by the way, to the person who wrote my comment the other day that because I'm 58, I'm too old to get married. Not true. That is not true. All right. Yeah, I know the statistic numbers and stuff drop, but I have friends who are my age that are my camera off. So no. Okay. So she's in her 30s. Clearly, she wants a family and stuff like that. It just surprises me, I guess, at times how people are kind of like, I gotta write into Reddit to get approval that I don't have to allow myself to be screwed over. You know what I mean? So I guess that just kind of surprises me. She says here also, where is it that she says she has money in the stock market. She owns her property. She would have a freak out if she ever owed 18,000. Well, if you're going to freak out owing 18,000, then why would you hook yourself up with somebody who comes in with 18,000? All right, we're going to take a look at the final story for this Tuesday. Am I overreacting? That's what AIO stands for. Only now finding out about $50,000 of debt 10 years into the marriage. Today, I found out that my husband owes $50,000 in student loan debt. I still don't know what the exact number is. I cannot stress enough how many times I have asked about this. I do all of the finances for our family, and after changing my credit from 550 score to 750, I have had many conversations with my husband about full financial transparency so I can help him do the same, especially as we need to apply for a mortgage together. I have said over and over again that it doesn't matter what he owes, he just needs to tell me. For the last 10 years, he has always told me, my student loan debts are maybe $4,000 max. $50,000 is a very different number. Yes, I have run a credit report, but since the student loan went to collections, it never showed up on the credit report. My husband is claiming ignorance, saying he has no idea that it had gotten that high. He says he didn't think it was that important because they're deferred. I said, that doesn't mean they don't exist. I freaked out and contacted his parents, asking them to tell me as much as they can and telling them he has hidden this from me for 10 years. They're all acting like I'm overreacting, saying it's easy for $4,000 to turn into 50,000. Everyone has student loan debt. It was an honest mistake and nothing we can't work through, et cetera, et cetera. I have stressed to this man several times after other financial issues that I can accept layoffs, I can accept job loss, hard times, but I cannot accept being lied to or having things hidden from me. And this is way more serious than has ever happened before, especially since I'm being made to feel stupid or crazy for being so shocked and upset. At the same time, I know I can always file injured spouse, so his debts will never affect me, and then it won't fall to our children. So maybe we can work through this. Is it normal to find out your spouse has $50,000 in student loan debt they never told you about or never knew about? No, it's not normal. In fact, it's sneaky, it's shady. Him telling you it's $4,000 and it's actually $50,000. And I'm going to tell you why I would divorce. Okay. It was the fact, what was the comment she made down here? She said, there are other situations here, right here. I have stressed to this man several times after other financial issues. This tells me that this is a pattern of him hiding debt. Remember what I like to tell you guys. I call it the blueprint. If you want the blueprint on how to stay financially in debt, broke, unable to retire, one of the financial blueprints is stay with someone who does not come clean about the debt and who clearly has no interest in paying off the debt. Let's go ahead and we'll take it at face value. $4,000 is what the student loan started at. I'm sorry. I don't believe the student loan ever was $4,000. I think the student loan was way more. They're clearly a young couple. They're looking at, from what I can tell, they're looking at buying a house. Okay. Probably want the family, the whole 9 yards, yada, yada. Okay. So it tells me they're probably not in their 50s and 60s. This man has no interest in her financial security. Do not stay ever in a relationship with someone who does not care about their financial security, much less your financial security. Do not stay in a relationship with someone who thinks so low of you that they're willing to take you down financially along with them. This is the blueprint, one of many blueprints on how you're going to wind up calling into the Ramsey show at 55 years old. I mean, think about it. Okay, here I am, 58. It would be like me being with a partner, and I'm thinking, hey, you know what? We're doing good here, okay? I got a little side YouTube gig going on. I got my Social Security. In 10 years, I'll have a 30-year teacher pension. I got a side thing of, a few $100,000 into an insurance annuity, okay? All of this stuff, and that few $100,000 will be built over the next 10 years, okay? So I'm thinking we're all good. And then my partner says to me, oh, by the way, you don't know it, but we have $100,000 in debt that I didn't tell you about. Oh, well, that certainly changes things now, doesn't it? You see, but here's something that you need to consider about what this read or what I would tell her, because it sounds like they are relatively young from what I can tell. But regardless of age, she already has the blueprint on what he's like financially. She already knows. She says, other financial issues have come into the relationship. She knows how his parents are going to respond. First off, I think calling people's parents over you know, your your relationship issues, I don't think that's appropriate. Okay, but she already did call the parents. The parents are going to defend their little boy, defend the little daughter, whatever. And you also have to keep in mind, do you think the parents want to deal with him? They're probably going, please don't divorce him. We don't want his ass on, sleeping back on our couch again. So parents have a vested interest to tell her, oh, this no big deal. He can just stay with you. The parents have a vested interest. Always ask yourself, when someone gives you an answer, what investment, what opportunity, what's in it for them to give you the answer that they give you? Someone, what was it that a thing that we read about not too long ago, or it was on TikTok, YouTube. I can't remember. It's all merges together. And one person told another, oh, it was the Dave Ramsey show. One person, coworker, told the other coworker to quit the job and go do Uber, Grubhub, or social media, whatever. And I'm thinking, the person that told you to quit your job, do they want your job? See? So the parents have a vested interest in playing it down. And I can probably bet you the parents already knew. This was never a $4,000 student loan to begin with. This student loan was way bigger. And that is why I would tell her that she needs to go ahead and she needs to divorce him. You cannot stay with someone who has given you a history of what they are like financially and then complain, 15, 20 years later when you have no money. Now, see, I intend to work for forever, but I'm going to be doing it by choice. Because when I retire, I can't just, after you've been a middle school teacher and all the hubbub and excitement and running around the school, do you think I can just sit and retire and look at the daisies? Maybe for a week. Hell, I'll even take a year. Eventually, I'm going to get bored and I'm going to like, okay, we need to go back into the substitute classroom and whatnot. Maybe I'll start a second YouTube channel. Who knows? But I can't just sit around and do nothing. But I am going to have the option to sit around and do nothing. I'm going to have the option to be able to work part-time. You stay with somebody who you clearly have a history of lying to you about the finances, then that is totally on you. And you hear this over and over again in the calls and the articles that we read. Well, he did this before. She ran this card up before. Okay. We had 2 bankruptcies already. Yeah, I'm talking about myself there. Okay. There's a history. Now, in my case, I would like to defend myself, and I did correct and right the error of my ways, and I'm in a much better shape now. But I went through hell and back to get it. Okay, and a few, financial blessings, like my parents leaving me a little something so I get the condo, and then my student loan forgiven. Okay, and I recognize those blessings, and I'm ever so grateful because it literally changed my financial picture. But one thing that will never be brought back into my life, and that is someone who does not value retirement savings, someone who does not value you living under your means. Okay. That's what we want, under the means. I can pay all my bills on one teacher paycheck. All right. So she clearly is with someone who does not respect her as a person, as a partner, and I would tell her she needs to end it. Yes, I would. What time is it? It is 12:32, and I do believe it is time for me to head to the gym. I'll see y'all this evening for TikTok.